So back to our geo level, let's drop down another geo sub, dive in there, and I want to tear something. So let's drop down a grid, which will be our cloth to tear. Let's scale it to be 3 by 3 in size and enable our wire shading again. Also, I want to drop down a trusty old pig head again, set its difficulty to easy, and use this one as a collision geometry. Maybe move down our pig head a bit, like this. So what I could do in Vellum, I could use this grid as a cloth, this quad grid. Just subdivide it a bit better. Maybe 50 by 50. Then just use the standard Vellum configure cloth here. Grid goes in this port, collision geo in this one. And let's drop down the Vellum solver, highlight it, and all we have to do is hit play to get this basic cloth simulation, which isn't that bad regarding that we did very little to actually tweak it. So what I could do now, or what I like to do, is instead of a grid of a quad grid, I like to use a remesher, or you could also use the Triangulate 2D to mess up this mesh a bit, make it a bit more irregular. So let's increase the iterations to say 8 and dial down the edge length to say 0.05. That's a bit excessive. Let's set it to 0.1, like this. Highlight the solver again and hit play. Not much change so far, still a solid simulation for what it is. We could increase the mesh resolution. However, I want to do something different. I want to destroy this thing. I want to tear it apart, the cloth, when it hits my collision geometry. So I will drop down the new edge fracture sub. Highlight this. And in here, I can output the primitive pieces and highlight this here. This is new. This is a direct visualizer. So what this does here, and I can also show the guide geometry, is it splits my mesh along the edges of those triangles it generates. So I can dial in how many pieces I'd like here, something like that. And when I highlight the Vellum solver now, hit play again, I can see those individual pieces falling there. However, I would like them to only become those individual pieces after they've received a certain amount of stress, so after they've been stretched, they've been overstretched. And for that, what I have to do is first I have to stitch them together again, so that they simulate as one whole piece. Luckily, Vellum comes with a node for that. In this case, it's called Vellum Weld Points. So let's drop that in here, highlight it, and we can see those stitches appearing, like someone sewed those individual pieces together. So let's just, again, highlight the solver, hit play. And you can see this simulates as one whole piece. However, it doesn't tear. No problem. In the Vellum Weld, when you scroll down here a bit, just check breaking. And then it's a matter of dialing in the threshold and choosing which kind of stress you want to use to calculate where those connections that we welded together break. In our case, let's just stick with the stretch stress and maybe dial this down a bit to 0.07, reset this sim, and sim again. Nope, not there, so let's dial back the threshold further, and even further. And now we can see, as soon as those pieces hit my collision geometry, they fall apart. But even some of those stitches still keep together, because they didn't experience that much stress. So those stitches here still hold together. So that is your basic cloth tearing setup in Vellum. So that was a quick and easy one. In the next part of this mini-series, we're going to look at how to work with Vellum nodes inside of DOBs. And just as a reminder, if you're looking for more in-depth Houdini content, check out our Patreon. And as always, a huge thanks to all of you guys supporting us on Patreon, especially Kyoko Sakane, Martin Ögren, Joseph Howerton, Nick, Chris Hebert, Rafik Anadol, Rob Bryant Jr., and Mohammed Alabri. Thanks so much.